Welcome to the Agency Founder Podcast. Are you ready to grow your marketing agency? We pull back the curtain to show you how real marketing agency founders struggled, built, and scaled their agencies. Practical advice, lessons learned, wins, and losses. We hold nothing back. Now your host, Jeremy Sonny.
Welcome to the Agency Founder Podcast by Moonshine Marketing. Every single week, we interview successful founders of marketing agencies at different points in their journey to pass on their victories, defeats, challenges, and lessons learned to help you take your agency to new heights. This week, we're speaking with Chandler Welling of Welling Media, an agency focused on creating impactful content for e-commerce brands. Chandler, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me, man. Excited.
Yeah. So, I've kind of seen you around a lot. We kind of tend to run in the same circles with like ad leaks and all of that stuff. How'd you get hooked up with that crew? How'd you kind of get into that?
Yeah, for sure. I'll give you the 40,000 foot view, if you will, the long story short. Got my step in business from an early age, 16, 17 years old. Was working for my family business, which we would refurbish headlights for insurance companies. So say you wreck your car, goes to the body shop, like Liberty Mutual or whatever would call my family's business. But I would sell the broken headlights or not insurance quality headlights that were still usable on eBay, and built a 7-figure eBay store at like 17 years old. And I was like, okay, I kind of got this business thing. Ended up selling custom headlights as just like a young car guy I was into on Instagram, and built a brand from 0 to 2 million in about 18 months, and figured out real quickly I wasn't good or I wasn't passionate about like the fulfillment of orders, because we were selling so much and grew so fast that we essentially sold the company out of business. But from there, I took my gatherings and said, if I could just do this for other brands, I'd be in a good spot, right? I'd be really setting myself up for success. So I went into the social media marketing space, managing content organic for a pretty large brand that we took from 9 million to 60 million in the course of about 2 years. And I started kind of talking about that on Facebook ad buyers, and then now, the ad leaks groups, and kind of built a name for myself with a kind of different perspective on marketing, which was, creative, copy and offer are all that you need to succeed on Facebook ads, which, 2 years ago was still a little bit, I think left field, as everyone was still so focused on the strategies, and just ended up making a little bit of a name for myself, kind of coming from a different angle. And now we're here, man.
For sure. No, I love that. That's really interesting. So basically started off, kind of like flipping, right? Like that's kind of a cool background.
Yeah, no, for sure. It was definitely a unique angle, man. I just kind of took what I had in the family business, and ended up like bringing that to eBay. It wasn't flipping because we weren't necessarily buying like things like drop shipping. Essentially, I had this whole warehouse of headlights, right? That my dad and my brother built up this great business, and I was like, dude, what if we just start customizing them? Like, because we had like a surplus of lights, so we would have like literally 20,000 Ford Fusion headlights. And I was like, dude, why don't we just like customize these and build a brand? And it just blew up, kind of like it did for the agency. But it was definitely a unique intro into e-com and the whole world.
Yeah, I love that. It's an interesting thing, especially I hear a lot of the kind of like OG e-com, folks, you hear like a lot of like, oh, you got to build Shopify store and everything else. Like there's so many people that got their starts, I think, on eBay, really, which is it's kind of wild, especially for kind of the younger folks. I don't think people realize how big of a deal eBay kind of was even like a few years ago. I don't feel like it's as prominent.
It sounds like so long ago, because I guess it really was. But I mean, dude, I got my start in the e-commerce world, I guess, on eBay in like 06, 05 even maybe. I was like a middle school into freshman in high school when I started the whole eBay world, which is nuts.
That's wild. No, I love it. And it's not that long ago, but like internet world, it is like at the same time is the crazy thing. So no, I really like that. And I think that it shows a pretty incredible amount of self-awareness to say, oh, I hate maybe not hate, but like, I don't really like the fulfillment kind of side of it and all that comes with that, which is kind of cool. I like that that's how you kind of started in marketing and everything like that. Tell me a little bit more about Welling Media. I know that you're really content focused, and I actually love that. I completely agree with you that, far and away, having great content and great offer is the most important part of Facebook ads these days. And I say that as somebody that, focuses most of my like personal time on media buying, right? And like setting up the strategies. But I think you're right. Like you have to have the offer, you have to have the creative. But tell me a little bit more about how you arrived there and, kind of what Welling Media does kind of today.
Yeah, for sure, man. So, like I said before, we had this really interesting, I say we, it was just me at the time, interesting case study on building this. It was an automotive lighting e-com brand separate. It was actually, so the company that we would buy parts for to customize the headlights in my first company, I actually ended up hitting them up when I wanted to start my agency. Said, hey, you saw how quickly my brand, was on the come up because I was one of their customers. Like, let me do this for you kind of thing. And so from there is when, I started, talking in the Facebook ad buyers groups. And I noticed so quickly that every single person in the group, now this is 2017, 2018 days in Facebook ad buyers, they were talking about tactics. And it's just like all these different bid strategies. And I admittedly had no idea what anyone was talking about, but I was spending anywhere from 50 to 150K a month at a 4 and 5X. And I was like, okay, so why is that? How can I spend, 6 figures a month without having any prior experience, no training? Like, what is the reason for that? It's not because I feel like I'm so great. I feel like anyone can do it, but like, I feel like I was missing something, right? And so I quickly realized that all of these agencies, at least most of them, got their start in the agency world by, either taking a course or doing something, which is fine. But I felt like as a practitioner, building a brand prior, kind of getting that start a little bit from the content side of things, because, we blew up on organic social. I realized that there was a gap in the market for great content for brands, right? And so we just kind of slowly but surely started to, look for content creators local to the Nashville area where we're at. So people that, maybe they're videographers for people in the music scene. Nashville's a music city, capital of the world. So there's a lot of creatives. And so I was like, dude, if I could get those creative people and show them like kind of my e-commerce knowledge, we can actually create some really cool things for brands. And I understood just how quickly things need to move in e-com, right? Like, gone are the days of like conceptualizing, 3 creatives for like some kind of campaign that's going to last 6 months. Like we have to fly through hundreds of creatives. And so just kind of recognizing the gap in the market and the landscape for what social was requiring, I just kind of built an agency around that. So now we've got about 14, 15 creatives and some other personnel and mixed in there with, social media buying. But our main thing is, is creating content for e-commerce brands above all.
No, absolutely. So you say creating content for e-commerce brands, and I really love that like kind of fast iteration. I think that's from my perspective, that's so on the money, right? Like where, I think that there was this kind of almost like, I don't know, attitude in the past where it's like, oh, we know how our brand should be perceived the most. And I'm not saying that like, having clear brand vision or something like that is silly. That's not what I'm saying at all. But, what specific iteration is going to actually resonate with folks, I think used to be kind of decided in a boardroom, and now it's kind of decided via the data, via like what the actual performance is. And I'd love to kind of hear a little bit about your process. Like how do you actually run through that practically with like a brand, if you were like to take somebody new on and say, okay, this is like how we're going to attack this problem, here's how we're going to try and reach your customers.
Yeah, it's a great question. It's something that we have been refining like very closely over the last, say, 6 months, just because we have all these great theories on different parts of marketing, whether it's organic, whether it's content, whether it's media buying, or just, a paid creative strategy, an organic creative strategy. How do we connect it to a brand? And so this is actually like a perfect timed question, because just over the last few weeks, I'm speaking at Geek Out LA, Nick Shackelford's event at the end of February. And so like I'm speaking on really what this question, which is like, okay, what is our approach, especially on the content side, to unifying, a strategy, right? And it's very much organic based. And before, a lot of people would like tune that out and be like, yeah, organic's dead, but it all makes sense now. So I'll walk through like the bullet points. So say we're bringing on a brand, like you said, hey, dude, you nailed it. You get it, right? The data speaks, right? Like we're not trying to define our brand super close knit. Like we want the market to, because that's what's going to win, right? So we go with a volume of content. So we will say that every brand needs to be posting 3 to 5 times per day minimum on social. Now, of course, you have to work up that's a lot of content, but we have the structure for that, right? And so what happens when you post 3 to 5 times per day is not only do you game the algorithm by forcing the algorithm to spread out your content to different groups of people because you're giving it so much, but 2, you actually get really clear and meaningful data, say over 30 to 60 days of doing this, that now you know what audience is responding to what types of content and what the effects of that are. And so now what we can do is say at the end of 30 or 60 days, sort all content by engagements, take the top 5 to 10 performers and bring those over to the paid side. And dude, we're seeing a 200 to 400% increase in CTRs. If we onboard a brand that has not been doing this, which I would say pretty much everyone doesn't follow this strategy, and it's been super, super effective. And so that's how we treat every relationship. Of course, there's, bigger brands have different departments and we don't have as much control. So there's a lot of politics that play into being able to really control the strategy. But in a perfect world, we implement this with any brand that we touch.
No, I love that. That's super cool. And I just to back up what you're saying, the whole organic is dead like meme, I think needs to really go away. The funniest thing, I was helping out just like a random person, she contacted me through like my subreddit and she was like, "Hey, I own a travel agency, I have this page and I could use some help." And I'm like, "Yeah, sure, I'll take a look, like whatever, being helpful." And I jump on and she's got 50,000 organic reach a week and she's just posting like memes and stuff. And I'm like, but she's posting so much at a good cadence every day, all stuff that resonates with her audience. And then she's getting this incredible kind of organic acquisition. So I'm really glad to hear you say that organic isn't dead. I think that's a meme that needs to die. So
no, for sure. I mean, our whole background is organic, man. So we preach it.
yeah, for sure. Absolutely. So I love hearing that, like, that's kind of your process, from an agency standpoint, though, what is it like running, your agency kind of day to day? How does that differ like from, the past businesses you've worked in, whether it's with your family or, on your own e-commerce ventures? Like what's kind of unique about running an agency? And do you have kind of any specific tips, tricks, for running like a smooth operation?
For sure. The biggest thing for me is I'm really great at a few small things and recognize that I'm terrible at more things that I'm good, that I'm great at. And so for me, it was offboarding responsibilities as quickly as possible to people who will do a better job than me and then, actually, carry the torch in their respective position. So for me, the biggest step was I waited way too long to hire. And I feel like we still even do that. Like this applies to all business owners, right? It's so scary, like, taking on growth or being hungry for growth because sometimes we look for comfort or some sort of padding or, some sort of someone to give you the permission to do it. And so for me, it was hiring one of my best buds, Josh, was our first hire, which was December of 2018, which is really not that long ago. And last year we went from 1 to 15 employees pretty quick. And it was just the fact that I just needed to kind of take a step out and then just offboard as many responsibilities as possible so I could focus on what I'm great at.
So delegating, you would say, is one of the things that you think, a lot of agency owners and stuff like that maybe struggle with?
Yeah, and I would say even like an extreme version of that, of delegating, which is like, to me, like delegating is like handing it off, but like it's more of an empowerment of that and trust. Like oftentimes last year, I thought that like I would delegate a task to someone or responsibility, and then I literally focused zero time on it. Like I didn't even know if it was doing good or bad. It's just trusting that you have the right people, and it depends on how quickly you want to grow and what your appetite for growth is. But like to me, delegating doesn't have it has more of a negative connotation. I feel like maybe it's just my own, bias in my head. It's more of like an empowerment of responsibilities, if that's a better way to say it, because, especially those few, first 3 to 10 hires are so key in an agency world because you want your clients to trust you and you want people to carry the torch so you can focus on growth. And
No, I love that. That's I really do like your kind of take on empowering key people versus delegating too. I think that makes a lot of sense and kind of shows a lot of maturity as a leader. I would guess like kind of digging into that a little bit. How does one actually find the right people, right? I see a lot of people, I mean, ad buyers job board and just, around like, oh, I can't find the best talent. How do I find the best talent? How do you find that talent and how do you properly kind of empower them when you bring them in, kind of make them a part of the culture?
so it's a great question. And I have a lot of, I would say, extreme thoughts on this. So for us, we don't want anything outsourced. I don't want any remote, any VAs, anything. I feel like the agency world is just flooded with VA everything. I want everyone under one roof. One, just personally, I love people and I love connecting with people and I love the collaboration and camaraderie that happens with that. So that was like a number one focus. From a very early age, I realized I didn't want to be a solopreneur. I wanted to build an actual company with a community of people. And so for me, it was looking local. A lot of people, you'll see like an ad buyer's job boards, they're looking just to hire out, like whether it's full-time, part-time, or like as an agency, like, whether it's a media buyer or a creative person, whatever. For us, it was all local people because I wanted everyone under one roof. So a few key people we hired, we brought down, I spent most of my life in Michigan, even though I was born in Nashville and now live in Nashville. So I brought down a lot of my really great buddies growing up because I just knew, one, core values aligned and mission aligned. And I knew that I could train them and plug them in and empower them. A lot of our people, it was just like, hey, we're looking for a video guy. Let's interview, 50 people and we'll find the best three and plug them in. And we only had to get rid of one person in the last year. So essentially everyone we brought on like just stayed. And I'm not sure if we got lucky or we just actually have a really great interview and onboarding process, but I feel like we have some sort of extreme scenario to where I feel like most people, if they're hiring 15 employees in a year, they might get rid of some, but we seem to just be able to keep stacking. And I feel like it's definitely getting harder now that we have more employees. We're looking for more key people in terms of like, we put more weight on a position that we're hiring. But I guess if I had to sum that up in a quick answer, it would be, don't be afraid to make mistakes and just bring people on as quickly as possible if the company calls for that.
Right, absolutely. I mean, that's a pretty incredibly low churn rate, especially in agency land. Would you say, and I might offer something that I thought I heard, and you can tell me yes or no, but it sounds like you hired more for culture rather than, necessarily, and like I can train the rest, and that might be the key for you.
That's the only thing that we hire off of, quite literally. Like, of course you want some skill sets, right? So if you're hiring a video guy, of course they need to know some video stuff. But the only thing that we were worried about and we focused on, mainly from my first company that I said we built and sold out of business, my best bud Josh, who runs our operations here, COO, he was with me in that first company, and we did a lot of things really, really bad in that company. We were so young and hired almost just as quickly. But we kind of took that experience and said, okay, we know above all, we want the best culture out there, at least for us. And so, yeah, no, you nailed it, man. We definitely hired for culture. We hired for values, and then the rest can be taught, especially in the agency world, man. You're not going to find someone that has 10 years of digital marketing experience. It doesn't exist, like, at least in, right, like 2014 seems like a century ago on social. So like, if things are so new, you want someone who is dedicated to growth and has those values that align, and then the rest is history.
No, I love that. That's super cool. So I think that, kind of the other side of that coin, right, of hiring really quickly is you were able to grow super quickly, find a lot of clients very quickly. How'd you do that? How did you, kind of hit that like inflection point and really, that hockey stick growth moment and like, find great brands, onboard them and, be able to grow your agency with them?
Great question. So this is going to be maybe the least practical answer, at least at first glance, which is focused quite literally on over-indexing for your clients, which is followed by a very long-winded but great period of referrals. So that when I was a solopreneur per se for the first 2 years, because I started my agency in March 2017, I was working literally with one brand for a year and a half. Now I got paid really, really well, like 15, 20K a month. But I also dedicated my entire life to over indexing, so much so that we live in Nashville. I've got 4 kids, wife, the whole family thing. Obviously that's, if anyone knows as a parent, it's difficult to be a parent and own a business, right? You have like two things touching your heart.
I have a 13-month-old, so I
Hey,
get
there you
it.
go, man. Dude, the first, and especially when they're young, is definitely the hardest. But so for me, like, it was extreme value to my customer base, which was literally just one company. So much so that I would drive to Atlanta once a week, which is 4 hours from Nashville, in the same day. So I'd wake up at 2 a.m, drive to Atlanta. So I get there by like, I don't know, 8 or 9, because there's like an hour difference in traffic and whatnot. And then I would shoot content for the socials, their organic socials, and then drive back. I never asked for more money for it. They didn't ask for me to do it, but I knew it was needed for success. And so I always built value. Once you do that and you can take a company from 9 to 12 to 20 to 30 to $60 million in a short period of time, you can just start preaching about it and talking about it, which is, look at my name in Facebook ad buyers. I just talked a lot about what I was doing in content, and that's it. I made no pitches. I didn't do any of these like hidden posts on let me show you the process we use to take this to this. I was just like, dude, this is what I'm doing. If you like it, cool. If you don't, like, cool. And people just pick me up. And so I was just so focused on creating results, great results for clients, that the rest followed. We actually have, to this very moment, we're working on it, but we have no outbound sales strategy for our agency. We have no outbound sales, no marketing spend. We literally have been growing, 400 or 500% year over year for the last 2, now going 3 years, by just focusing on culture and quality of work.
No, I love that. And I think it's like, it's an answer that everybody knows is right, but it's kind of secretly unpopular because nobody wants to hear work your ass off, No, I really like that. So, I mean, I guess, my next question is what is your biggest like lesson learned? If you could do something different, or if you could double down on something earlier that you're now doing, what's your biggest lesson learned throughout this entire process?
So, man, I feel like this could be a deep question, and maybe my immediate answer is more surface level, but I'll try to make it into a deeper lesson. For me, I did a post like at the end of the year last year, maybe it was the beginning of this, like reflecting on the last year of growth. And my biggest mistake was being afraid to make a mistake. So I hired way too slow, and I probably spent money on the business way too slow, just out of pure fear of, like, what if we lose this client, or what if we don't, land the number of clients that we're hoping to next month to kind of cover, the cost of operation. And none of that was actually even factual data to support the fear. It was just in my mind. So for me, it's if you're committed to growth and you're committed to your company, it's just doing everything that you need to support that, rather than just trying to remain comfortable. So
I love it. Yeah, like not being afraid to spend money or get resources, when it's obvious. Make a growth-based decision rather than like a fear-based decision. Is that like a fair way of saying that?
yeah, 100%.
Cool. I really like that. I think that, that's a problem that a lot of people have, right? Like, you get a little bit of imposter syndrome. I definitely get imposter syndrome all the time, right? It's part of the reason I actually hate those like secret case study posts that like people do all the time, because I'm like, oh man, I'm not getting 40x ROAS for somebody right now, right? But like, but these other people are. So what am I doing wrong? You question yourself a lot. So I definitely feel that, and I think that it's very introspective to say, I questioned myself too much, and I actually should have put myself out there a little bit more. So cool. Well, Chandler, I really appreciate your time today. Thank you so much for sharing these insights. I learned a lot. Definitely going to take some of these lessons and internalize them and try and use them for myself. I will always let somebody pitch something, anything that they want, at the end. So whether that's, your agency, or, some people do like charities, or, other causes that are important to them, just wanted to say thank you and give you a minute or two to do that.
Yeah, I would say that at this state in the game, Welling Media is just looking to connect with e-commerce brands size 2 million to 200 million to support their creative process. So if you own a brand and you fit, in those guidelines, then let's chat, because we have, something that we're really proud of, that we lead with all of our pitches with, like, and we kind of wear our heart on our sleeve, is in a world where agencies have a 2 to 3 month churn and burn rate with their clients. We literally have had the same clients since inception and just have stacked and stacked. And the only reason we're able to do that is through great service and great work. And so we're looking for brands who appreciate that and are dedicated to growth and align in those ways. And yeah, man, I think that's my pitch.
Okay, great. Well, Chandler, thank you so much again for being here with us.
Yeah, I appreciate your time, man. Appreciate you having me on, and looking forward to chatting with you further on, man.
For sure. Thank you again.